What if the stranger you risked everything to help in the dead of a stormy night wasn't who he seemed, but someone whose secrets were as deep as the fog that hid him, leading to an anonymous gift that could change your life forever? But at what mysterious cost? Get ready for a journey into the unexpected, where an act of kindness in the face of despair unravels a truth no one saw coming, leaving a young woman caught between gratitude and a growing web of secrets. The cold Seattle wind whipped rain against the ambulance windows, streaking the glass with blurred gray lines. Outside, the thick, clinging fog, typical of the coastal winter, swallowed skyscrapers and city lights, turning the familiar landscape into a ghostly maze. Inside the vehicle, the heater fought against the damp chill that seemed to seep into everything. Anya Sharma, 28, an on-duty paramedic, rubbed her hands together, trying to shake off the shiver that wasn't just from the weather. "Another lovely night in Port Nowhere," grumbled Ben Carter, her partner, adjusting the radio on the dashboard. Ben was a service veteran, just cynical enough to handle the job's hardships, but with a good heart hidden under layers of sarcasm. Anya let out a tired sigh. "At least it's keeping us busy, Ben. Better than waiting around at the station." Busy was an understatement. The past few weeks had been brutal. A wave of flu and weather-related accidents had the teams stretched thin. Every siren was a reminder that someone needed help, and Anya took that seriously. But the exhaustion was heavy, not just from work. Her mother, Priya's medical bills kept piling up. Priya, a vibrant former literature professor, was now battling an aggressive form of multiple sclerosis. A new experimental treatment offered hope, but the cost was astronomical, far exceeding what insurance covered. Anya worked overtime, picked up odd jobs, but felt like she was just holding up a wall that threatened to collapse at any moment. The radio crackled. "Unit 14, we have a 10 to 54. Possible trauma and hypothermia. Location, Dock 7, Port of Seattle. Priority Alpha. Estimated time 1947. The address made Anya sit up straighter. Dock 7 was a less used area, more industrial and isolated, especially in this fog. Priority Alpha. Sounds serious, she said. Serious and freezing, Ben added, putting the rig in motion. The siren tore through the damp night silence, and the ambulance sped through Seattle's foggy streets, headlights struggling to pierce the white wall around them. As they got closer to the port, the air turned saltier and colder. The area was desolate, with containers stacked like blocks from a forgotten giant, and massive cranes rising into the fog like prehistoric skeletons. Visibility was almost zero. They had to drive slow, with auxiliary lights on. They found a shaking dock worker standing beside a body crumpled near piles of timber. The man was huddled on the wet ground, barely visible in the dark and the fog. He was just here," the worker stammered, pointing with a trembling flashlight. "Didn't see how he got here. Just found him." Anya and Ben got out quickly, opening the back doors of the ambulance. The cold hit Anya like a punch. She knelt beside the man, her uniform fabric soaking up the dampness from the ground. "Sir, can you hear me?" she said, quickly assessing him. He appeared to be in his 40s or 50s. His clothes, though dirty and slightly torn on one shoulder, were of notable quality. A fine wool coat, expensive fabric pants. He was definitely not a typical homeless person, despite his distressed state. He was pale, lips tinged blue, trembling violently. There was a superficial cut on his forehead, but he seemed more exhausted and disoriented than seriously injured. "Pulse is weak and fast," Anya murmured to Ben. "Severe hypothermia, maybe shock." As Ben prepped the stretcher, Anya took the man's hand to check his skin temperature. His skin was ice cold, but smooth. Unexpectedly smooth for someone who seemed to have been struggling recently. His fingers, though dirty, had no calluses or signs of heavy manual labor. A subtle detail sparked a question in Anya's mind, but she pushed it down. His life was the priority. "We're going to get you warm, sir," Anya said, trying for a calm, reassuring tone as she helped Ben get him onto the stretcher. "We're taking you to the hospital." They moved him into the ambulance, closing the doors to trap the warmth. Inside, under the dim light, Anya could get a better look at the man's face. Fine features, tired, a few days' growth of beard, eyes closed, creased with pain or confusion. There was something about him, a bearing, even while unconscious, that suggested something more. Dignity? Power? It was hard to tell. As Anya hooked up monitors and started administering oxygen, the man groaned and his eyes slowly opened. They were a deep blue, clouded by the internal fog of confusion. Where am I?" he whispered, his voice hoarse, with an accent Anya couldn't quite place, but which sounded distinguished. "You're safe," Anya replied softly. "In an ambulance. We found you at the port. My name is Anya. I'm a paramedic. What's your name, sir?" He looked at her, his gaze lingering on her face for a moment, as if trying to focus. A flicker of something, recognition, passed through his eyes, but was gone as quickly as it came. I need to go back," he murmured, and then said a word Anya didn't understand. Something about shadows or secrets. It was unintelligible. Suddenly, bright lights flooded the interior of the ambulance. A large, dark car, a luxury SUV, stopped abruptly behind them. High beams pointed directly at the back of the ambulance. Two figures, impeccably dressed, got out quickly. Ben frowned. "Who the hell are these people?" Anya felt a tightening in her gut. The way they moved, the haste. It didn't feel right. They opened the back doors of the ambulance without even asking, the cold fog rushing in again. "We'll take it from here," said one of the men, his voice cold and authoritative, without any warmth. He had piercing eyes and a hard expression. The other figure, a woman with pulled-back hair and an equally serious demeanor, was already approaching the stretcher. "Excuse me, but he's our patient now," Anya countered, instinctively blocking access to the stretcher. "He needs to be evaluated at a hospital. Who are you?" The man flashed a badge or a wallet quickly. "Private security. He's our client. Had a lapse. We're taking him for specialized care." The words were firm but evasive. Anya felt an alarm bell ring in her mind. The man on the stretcher groaned again, seeming more agitated by the intrusion. Lapse? He looked like he'd been through something far more serious. And specialized care wasn't given in the back of an SUV in the middle of the fog. "I need a name for the report. And documentation proving you're responsible for him. And that he consents to being moved," Anya demanded, trying to keep her voice steady despite the rising tension. The woman approached the stretcher, ignoring Anya. "Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice softer, but still with a veiled tone of command. "We're here to help you. Let's go somewhere safe." Thorne! The name echoed. The man on the stretcher seemed to recognize it. A brief look of panic crossed his face, before being replaced by confusion again. The security man stepped forward, getting dangerously close to Anya. His voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "Don't make this difficult, paramedic. This is a private matter. You did your job, now let us do ours." He held out a hand. "Report. Hand it over." Ben intervened. "Hey, we just want to make sure he's going somewhere safe." He didn't seem in any condition to make decisions. The woman was already disconnecting monitors, acting with professional haste, almost impersonally. Anya felt anger and frustration rising. It went against everything she believed in, leaving a vulnerable patient to be taken by strangers. But the security man's eyes were cold and unyielding. There was a sense of power and authority that felt overwhelming there in the fog. Before Anya could protest further, they gently but firmly transferred the man, Alexander Thorne apparently, from the ambulance stretcher to the SUV. He was semi-conscious, unable to resist. In seconds, He was inside the car. The security man turned back to Anya and Ben. "Consider this. Handled. We appreciate the initial assistance." Without waiting for a response, he got into the SUV. The car sped off quickly, vanishing into the thick fog as fast as it had appeared. Only the smell of burning rubber and the heavy silence remained. Anya and Ben stood there for a moment, looking at the empty space. The cold air of the port felt even colder now. What the hell was that? Ben broke the silence. Anya was shaking, not from the cold. I don't know, Ben, but it didn't feel right. That wasn't a normal patient transfer." She looked at the spot where the SUV disappeared, the fog seeming to hide even bigger secrets. "Thorne," Anya murmured. "Alexander Thorne." "Me too." The name sounded expensive. And the whole scene. It felt like something out of a movie. Rich people in trouble, private security, disappearing into the night. They got back into the ambulance, the heater seeming insufficient to warm away the feeling of unease Anya felt. She filled out the report with the few details she had. The patient destination section painfully vague. Alexander Thorne, found at Dock 7, initial condition. Transferred to private care by individuals identifying as security. It wasn't enough. It didn't feel safe. That night, back in her small apartment, Anya couldn't sleep. The Seattle fog seemed to have settled in her mind. Who was Alexander Thorne? What was he doing alone and in trouble at the port that night? And who were the people who took him? The sense of mystery and the disturbing feeling that she had witnessed something important, and perhaps dangerous, haunted her, lingering like the persistent fog over the city. What she didn't know was that this strange encounter in the chaos of the winter night was just the first thread of a much larger web, a web that would soon pull her into a world she never imagined. The days and weeks following that night at the port were an exhausting blend of routine and lingering unease. The mystery of Alexander Thorne hung in Anya's mind like Seattle's persistent fog. She tried, discreetly, to get any information at the hospital. The report she filed was simply put away without fuss. Nobody on the night shift seemed to have heard anything about a patient rescued by private security. Ben and she exchanged skeptical glances occasionally, a silent acknowledgement of the strange event. But the pressure of work and personal challenges soon pushed the incident into the darker corners of her consciousness. And the personal pressure was immense. Priya's health fluctuated. There was a temporary improvement, followed by a worrying relapse. Her mother's specialist insisted the experimental treatment was the best hope, but the cost, already prohibitive, unexpectedly increased due to changes in insurance coverage and treatment logistics. Anya felt herself drowning. Overtime wasn't enough anymore. She considered selling her car, taking out loans with exorbitant interest. The prospect of not being able to give her mother a fighting chance suffocated her. One rainy afternoon, coming home after a double shift, Anya found a notification in her mailbox. It was a delivery notice from a courier service. The package required a signature. With a mix of curiosity and apprehension, she rarely received anything that wasn't a bill. She went to the pickup station the next day. The package was a large, discreet envelope, heavy. The sender was a prestigious law firm downtown Seattle, a name she recognized from the news. Her heart pounded. Lawyers? She didn't have legal problems. With slightly trembling hands, Anya opened the envelope in her apartment kitchen. Inside, there was a formal letter from the law firm and, to her bewilderment, a cashier's check. Her eyes landed on the amount. $500,000. $500,000. Anya stumbled back, sitting down in the nearest chair. The sound of the rain on the window seemed distant. $500,000? It was more money than she could ever imagine seeing in her lifetime. It was enough to cover years of her mother's experimental treatment, with plenty left over. Alongside the check and the letter was a small, plain white card. On it, only a few typed words, No signature. A light in the fog. For your mother's health. Trust. A light in the fog. The phrase hit her hard. The port. The night. The fog. Alexander Thorne. Her mind raced. Could it be? That man, found in the darkness, could he be the source of this unexpected fortune? But how did he know about her? How did he know about her mother? And why do it anonymously, through a law firm? The letter from the firm only confirmed they were acting under instructions from a confidential client to deliver the check and the note to her, Anya Sharma. It provided no details about the client's identity or the reason for the donation, citing professional privilege. The initial euphoria over the check's amount quickly gave way to a wave of anxiety and fear. Where did this money come from? Was it legitimate? Was it connected to something dangerous? The cold figures who took Alexander Thorne reappeared in her memory. Was this some kind of payment? Silence? Money? She called the bank to verify the cashier's check. After a few tense minutes on hold, the teller confirmed the check was authentic and the amount was available. It was real. Anya hung up the phone, the check still in her trembling hands. The relief for her mother was immense, overwhelming, bringing tears to her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of debt and financial uncertainty drastically lifted. She could give her mother the chance she deserved. But the money's origin tormented her. A light in the fog. Trust. The fog reminded her of Alexander Thorne's desperation, the mystery of his disappearance. The word trust seemed like a plea, or maybe a warning. She decided to deposit the check, but the anxiety remained. The money was there, real and accessible, a lifeline for her family. But the lack of answers about its origin, the law firm's silence, and the possible link to that strange night at the port left her unsettled. The phantom gift, though welcome, opened a new box of mysteries, forcing Anya to question everything she knew about the night in the fog, and igniting a fierce desire for resolution. She needed to know who her benefactor was, and why he, or she, had chosen to help her in such a dramatic and mysterious way. The fog is lifting, but the mystery is far from over. If Anya's journey into the unexpected has you hooked, make sure you don't miss a single twist. Hit that subscribe button right now and join us for the rest of this captivating story and many more like it. Let's unravel these secrets together. Depositing the check didn't open doors, but it confirmed her suspicions. Anya now knew that Alexander Elias Thorne was the man from the port and her mysterious benefactor. The knowledge brought a mix of relief and renewed caution. She decided to follow Pendleton's implicit suggestion, not to bother Alexander, but the curiosity and the need to understand everything remained. The following months brought more stability. Priya's treatment was progressing, and the money meant Anya could focus on her mother's care and her job without the constant shadow of debt. The gossip at the hospital died down. The paranoia about the parked car faded. Life seemed to be returning to normal, except for the persistent mystery in her mind. Then, almost a year after that night in the fog, Anya received another unexpected contact. Not from Pendleton, but from a woman named Eleanor Vance. She identified herself as Alexander Thorne's head of security and personal assistant. She requested a meeting. Anya hesitated, remembering the cold, professional woman who took Alexander from the ambulance. But the chance to finally get answers was too great to refuse. They met at a discreet coffee shop away from the hospital and the port. Eleanor Vance was just as impeccably dressed and serious as Anya remembered, but there was a surprising softness in her eyes as she began to speak. "Ms. Sharma, on behalf of Mr. Thorne and his family, I apologize for how things happened that night," Eleanor began, her voice calm and controlled. "It was an emergency situation, with risks that required drastic and rapid measures," Eleanor explained. Alexander Thorne had gone through a period of intense stress and grief after his sister's death. This culminated in a severe breakdown, not just mental, but physical. He disappeared from his residence, disoriented and in a dissociative state. He wasn't fleeing in a criminal sense, but rather lost in his own pain and confusion, looking for a place to hide from the world that overwhelmed him. Dock 7 was simply the final collapse point of a wandering journey. We searched for him for hours, desperately, Eleanor continued. When we received information about a man matching his description at the port, we rushed there. Seeing him in an ambulance, we feared the publicity could be disastrous at that moment of extreme vulnerability, considering his position and the internal challenges the company and family were facing. She admitted the approach was abrupt and lacked explanation. Our priority was to get him out of there and into a controlled, safe medical environment, away from curious eyes. He was taken to a private facility where he received intensive care for many months. The recovery was slow. And the money? When he began to recover, one of the first names he mentioned, repeatedly, was yours, Eleanor said, with a slight smile. He remembered the kind paramedic in the fog, who treated him with dignity when he felt like he had nothing. He remembered your voice, how you helped him. He said you were a light for him in that darkness and confusion. Eleanor explained that Alexander asked her to find out who that paramedic was. That's how he learned about Anya, about her mother, and the financial difficulties she faced. Mr. Thorne wanted to return the kindness you showed, not as payment, but as a genuine expression of gratitude. The amount was to ensure you had the freedom to care for your mother without the burden he learned you were carrying. The note, trust, was because he couldn't appear personally at the time and hoped you would trust that the gift was sincere, despite the initial mystery. Anya listened, the pieces clicking into place. The mystery of the disappearance, the donation, the cryptic note. It all made sense within the context of Alexander's crisis and recovery. Eleanor Vance, the woman who seemed cold, was actually a fierce and loyal protector. Is he fully recovered now? Anya asked, genuine concern in her voice. Eleanor nodded. Yes, it's a process, but he's come back. Stronger, I'd say, and with a different perspective on what truly matters. She paused, assessing Anya. He would like to meet you, if you're willing, to thank you personally. A few days later, Anya met Alexander Thorne. No longer in the chaos of an ambulance in the fog, but in a quiet, elegant conference room overlooking Elliott Bay, the same harbor where they first met. Alexander was well-dressed, his posture upright, but his deep blue eyes held the same intensity and a familiar melancholy Anya remembered. He looked healthy, but the vulnerability she had seen at the port was still there, subtle in his expression. Anya, he said, standing as she entered. His voice was calm, resonant, but with the same soft huskiness from that night. It's good to see you. Like this. Alexander, Anya replied, feeling a wave of emotion. It wasn't just the billionaire benefactor. It was the man she helped, the man who was lost. Conversation flowed naturally. Alexander spoke openly about his breakdown, the darkness that swallowed him after his sister's death, and the pressure of his world. He described how Anya's simple humanity that night, when he felt invisible and worthless, was a turning point. You didn't see my clothes, my lack of status in that moment. You just saw someone needing help. That saved me in a way the best medicine and security couldn't. Anya spoke about her mother, about the struggle, the relief the donation brought. They shared vulnerabilities, her pain over her mother's illness, his pain over loss and loneliness at the top. A deep and unexpected connection formed, based not on money or status, but on mutual respect and an understanding of human fragility. Alexander expressed his desire to do more, to turn his gratitude into something lasting. He proposed establishing a foundation to provide health care and support to families facing chronic illness, inspired by Anya and her mother's struggle and the memory of his own sister. He wanted Anya to work with him on this, using her experience and compassion. Anya accepted with a full heart. It was a chance to make a difference on a larger scale, a purpose that resonated deeply with her calling. Working with Alexander allowed them to truly get to know each other, away from the fog and the secrets. They discovered shared interests, a shared sense of humor, and a deep respect for each other's values. Months later, while walking through Volunteer Park, the sun finally breaking through over the city after days of rain, Alexander stopped beside a bench overlooking the Seattle skyline. He turned to Anya, his blue eyes fixed on hers. "Anya," he said, his voice slightly thick with emotion. "There's one more thing I want to thank you for showing me. You showed me that genuine kindness not only exists, but it can heal. And, by getting to know you, you showed me that love can also find its way, even after the darkness." He took a small box from his pocket. "You were my light in the fog. You allowed me to find my way back. Would you give me the honor of sharing the rest of my journey with you?" He opened the box, revealing a discreet, yet beautiful ring that caught the sunlight. Anya felt tears well in her eyes. There was no more mystery, no fear, just a calm, deep certainty. She wasn't saying yes to a billionaire, but to the man whose vulnerabilities she helped care for, to the partner who shared her desire to help the world, to the man who saw her and valued her for who she truly was. "Yes, Alexander," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I'll marry you." A genuine, radiant smile lit up Alexander Thorne's face. A smile Anya had never seen before, not at the port, not in the internet photos. Anya Sharma, the paramedic who struggled alone, found in the man the fog had brought her a life partner and a shared purpose. Their story, begun with an act of kindness amidst chaos and shrouded in mystery, bloomed as proof that compassion can be the most transformative force of all, capable of lifting the fog and illuminating the path to an unexpected future filled with hope. This story reminds us that true worth isn't measured in dollars or status, but in the kindness we show to others, even in the darkest of times. An act of genuine compassion, offered without expectation, can ripple outwards, returning in ways we could never predict, healing not only the recipient, but also the giver, and paving the way for connections that transform lives. If this journey touched your heart and offered a glimmer of hope, join our community dedicated to stories of human resilience, unexpected blessings, and the enduring power of good deeds. Subscribe to our channel.